we talked a bit about the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and international bankers. Yeah, so tonight is going to continue on the theme. But first, your official class handouts. Yeah, if you look at that, it's a comparison of the Buddha's Eightfold Path with the New World Order version, which is the opposite. This is written by me and my friend Albert Corcus. We developed this course together, but he moved to Toronto until the spring, so he'll be back. So this course, I should mention, is based on well, I guess around 6 or 7 years ago, Ajahn Sona, he told me about this Buddhist Zen professor named David Loy, an American professor. And I said, well, that's Zen, right? We're the Theravada Zen. But Ajahn Sona said he's really one of the great thinkers in Buddhism today. And his book I should have brought tonight is called A Buddhist History of the West, Studies in Lack. So then I started reading David Loy, and he came to town a couple times. I met him, had dinner with him one night with a group of people. And he's one of the leaders of the Buddhist Peace Fellowship. They have a little local organization here as well. So Loy's thesis, briefly, I can do some readings from him tonight, is that it's not enough just to have an awakening on the cushion and to see through your own delusions, but you have to see through society's delusions as well. So you have to be more politically engaged. And the Buddha certainly allowed for that. Like the Buddha said, taught the monks that they're not allowed to get involved in politics, but lay Buddhists can, and they should, and they obviously have to. Mm-hmm.
So what exactly is New World Order? Anglo-American New World Order.
Yeah, see, on the we've got a good speaker here on the side of it, so it'll pick up all of us. So let's talk about that. What is the New World Order? Well, it's an old world order. Basically, it's kind of a fancy name for what's written right here: the Anglo-American New World Order or Old World Order. The idea of, I guess, calling it the New World Order might give people in other parts of the world the idea, well, maybe there's something in it for us when really there isn't. So so what it means is the Anglo-American New World Order is basically based in London, in the sense London is the center of the world, and it's basically government by the bankers, of the bankers, and for the bankers. So it's like international bankers exerting their influence through governments and other institutions to gradually take over the world. So basically it's a plan by these people to take over the world, and their agenda or their vision is to basically to enslave the world. So it's not like a United Nations concept of organic growth towards a world government and a peaceful, harmonious society. So I guess that's a short answer. That might raise more questions. Yeah, so have you studied any of this stuff before? Like, yeah. Well, I have a video I can show you of Anthony Sutton that will be a real eye-opener. The evidence for this is quite conclusive, at least from the 1890s until now, for over a century. There's a lineage of people, bankers, like the Rothchild family in particular is the highest, most powerful, probably, force. And the Rockefellers, the Morgans, and others. From the 1890s, we can see through documentation the steady progression of these same people and their descendants controlling this massive power, advancing it forward. So it's not just a conspiracy theory. It's and these are very much the forces that influence our lives and very much influence the governments. So I know when I first encountered this was maybe last 3 or 4 years, I got more seriously interested in this stuff. My initial reaction was one of disbelief, like, show me some evidence. So I can understand when you first encounter this kind of information, you might think, well, this is paranoid, or it's hard to believe. I can certainly understand people have that reaction. So this class is, I think, very good for you. So I have some sources on the handouts. There's some links, and certainly some books to read. For instance, one of my big influences is this book here. Well, Jim Marrs has several books on the subject. Rule by Secrecy by Jim Marrs. And he goes through not just since 1890, but even back many centuries, even 1,000 years of various societies. And it's very much through secret societies that this power has been maintained. And secrecy is necessary for this. In fact, you probably heard of David Rockefeller. He's the last surviving of the 5 Rockefeller sons. There's a speech he gave, you can hear it on YouTube, where he thanks the mainstream media like TV networks and Time Magazine for not publicizing their agenda. Said we could only have succeeded this far without the media spotlight on us. So thank you very much. So he admits this, and he admits he's with a cabal of bankers, and he feels, well, it'd be better to have the world ruled by bankers than by despots and tyranny or Stalin or Hitler. So I think a good point to point out, though, it is the state of mind is one of an oligarchy state of mind. And, in the book The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, the character Gatsby, he's talking to this other fellow, and he says, rich people, they're different than we are. And the other fellow says, well, yeah, they got a lot of money. And Great Gatsby says, no, you don't understand. It's much deeper than that. It's the way they think. And this is the point, the oligarchical thinking of the elitists. They feel, it's their role to govern people. It's their role to rule the world. Those people are too dumb to handle their own affairs, so we should take care of that. So it's an attitude of thinking, and people like Henry Kissinger, very much at the heart of this. He's been, since the mid-1950s, very much at the heart of these organizations. So, and the money that comes behind it. So that's the kind of elitist thinking that they have. So it seems that what they want to create is a world where they have the elite, then there's everyone else. And where the everyone else? Even your average millionaire, that's nothing. You have to be a billionaire or multi-billionaire to join this club. So even your average affluent millionaire, they're going to be in the same boat as everyone else. Maybe I should show you a video from Anthony Sutton, because he's a Stanford University scholar from the 70s and 80s, and he published about 10 books on these subjects, one called National Suicide, how we're really destroying our country, the United States, he was saying. And he was pushed out of Stanford. He was pressured and finally had to leave. But he kept publishing his books, and he lived till 2002. So he's one of the early thinkers in the 70s and 80s who saw this, and he was on talk shows talking about it. But he's on this kind of Christian talk show, so it's not like mainstream CBS, ABC News. But at least we can see people have been giving a lot of thought and knew about this. So many people, this information is basically known and out there, but you're probably aware that the mainstream media just doesn't print or televise a lot of information. Mainstream media, like what we call television news and newspapers and radio, is owned, as far as I know, by about 5 different corporations. So a small group of people control what goes into our mainstream media. So our blessing is the internet. Because of the internet, we've got a level playing field, more freedom and democracy. Of course, we know there's lots of misinformation on the internet, but it is a way to really have any information spread out there, so you can get your hands on information. Whereas the mainstream media, it's controlled. So stuff like what people have known about for many decades. I didn't know about this until just a few years ago, because that's when Brian Rue woke up. Brian Rue did some research and said, whoa, but this information is out there. And my feeling is the biggest problem in the world is this New World Order agenda by these international bankers and their cabal. I think it's the single biggest problem in the world. Even people say, well, global warming, isn't that the biggest problem in the world? Well, the evidence is the New World Order has a lot of control over what goes on with global warming. Things like the cap and trade and carbon tax, that's all controlled as another scheme to transfer the wealth from the poor to the rich. So even if global warming is this big, huge problem, or the biggest problem, the New World Order, I think, is on top of that as the single biggest problem in the world. So here I am just giving a lot of claims, so I have to give some evidence, right? Any questions, comments so far? So it'd be good maybe to start off. The short video is about 10 minutes by Anthony Sutton. We could play a bit of that. Yeah, this is like that particular video that was of Anthony Sutton was in 1987. This is a Christian lady. She was had her big church and all kind of following. This specific YouTube videos just of her. I think she calls herself Elizabeth Clare Prophet. Yeah, so we can analyze that. That's just a slice of the New World Order. So he's putting forth the evidence that on Wall Street, New York, they conceived of and created the Russian Revolution and created communism. You've ever heard that before? Now I think this video of his, I was bouncing around looking at New World Order videos. That's when I first heard this. I checked with other people. Oh yeah, I knew that. So, I checked around from several sources, Jim Marrs and others, and they're saying this is the case. So of course the question there is, like you were saying, like why would they do? What's the motive? And what he was pointing out was that Russia was about 2 to 3 times larger than the United States. And they didn't want to have another United States in the world as like competition, in a sense they're jealous of Russia. And also, contrary to what we're told in history, Russia was on par with the rest of Europe in terms of technology. They had a plane the size of a 747 in 1916. They had 2 indigenous car companies they were developing. So, so one motive is to create a socialist state, because a socialist state just can't innovate. It's just not possible for a socialist to innovate the way the Americans would innovate, because you have patents. So that would eliminate competition. Also, it would be a market for their products. They could sell your Western products, European, American, to Russia. But also another thing which we've seen over time is called the Hegelian dialectic, which means problem, reaction, solution. The idea is the international bankers wanted to control both sides and create conflict. So they created the Soviet Union and the American nuclear arms race. The whole struggle between communism and capitalism was, in a sense, a staged event, a planned event by the international bankers, because they want to operate both sides. And it's not just that they profit from war, which they do. International bankers, we know, they profit from war. They fund both sides, and some arrangements they have where the loser, his debts are paid by the winner. So they would profit, but it seems the more the agenda for New World Order, war, they say, is the fastest way to change the society, change the people. What they want to do in order to create a world system is to change society. Because society is people wouldn't cooperate with an oligarchy elite ruling them. So that seems to be explain a bit of the motives of why they'd want to rule. This rule in Russia, like, you have to have compassion for Russia and the Russian people. They've suffered so much in the century, deliberately inflicted on them by New York and London bankers. And in many ways, New York is just a front for London, or the Rothschilds, who are in London as well as in Germany, Europe. It seems the Rothschilds have most of the power and money and influence, and they do things through surrogates through these New York bankers. So it gives you some sympathy for Russia. So you and I, all growing up, we always grew up with this threat of nuclear war. We knew it was overhead every waking and sleeping moment. But this was, it didn't really happen the way we were taught. All of our history has been a lie, in a sense of being concealed. But the history wasn't completely concealed. This has been known. It's just that the mainstream press isn't telling you this. So whatever their motives were, that's one thing. But the evidence, did this actually happen? It seems conclusive that what I read from other sources is it's not just they started, but they sustained the Soviet Union right up until like 1991, until the collapse of the Soviet Union. It's interesting, even my father's company, my father was an engineer for Foster Wheeler in St. Catharines, Ontario. It was a big American firm. And in 1928, they were part of the 5-year plan. Like the Soviet Union came up with these 5-year plans. Like in 1922, Russia was just devastated because of the revolution. Their economic output went from, say, 100% in 1913 to about 8% in 1922. There's mass starvation. So the bankers brought in all these Russian companies, American, German, French, English, to get the economy going, get the factories going again. And my dad's company, Foster Wheeler, was one of them, 1928. So the 5-year plans of the Soviet Union were written on Wall Street, and there's a famous American planner, one of the greatest industrial planners of all time. He was the one who would design these 5-year plans, and then they were put into place in the Soviet Union. Yeah, so whatever the reasons, the evidence that this actually happened seems to be quite conclusive. So that's a lot to take on board right there. It's not that the Cold War wasn't real. Like, a nuclear war could have started any time. President Kennedy, he felt that there would be a nuclear war. He felt that this is probably going to happen. And it could have happened, and maybe the New World Order didn't care. Yeah. Yeah, so it can be just heavy talking about the problems. Ajahn Sona, my teacher, was saying you should still have the spiritual path, the Buddhist path, as your highest, your highest focus or aspiration. And it's fine, it's good. It's fun to get involved in your other interests. If you want to study New World Order, I think that's fine. But you don't want to just get engrossed in that all the time. It could make you dark, a bit negative. So I feel I'm balanced. I'm living a balanced life. We had our meditation retreat on Sunday. Now this. So I could go on. I got lots of notes, but if you have any questions, comments, or want to steer in a particular direction. Well, just quoting David Lloyd again, it's good to see through society's delusions. So it's good to you're better off knowing in terms of delusion. You're better off being aware of the delusions or society or the misrepresentations that we're getting. So I'll jump into a bit. I'll talk about some of the organizations that are behind this. I mentioned in the 1890s, what happened back then, the Rothschilds, just a brief overview of the Rothschilds. They go back to about 1690. The family name is Bauer. They had a gold shop. They put this red shield above their shop so people could see it. And so they changed their name to Red Shield, which is Rothschild in German. This was in Germany, either Munich or Berlin, one of these places. And they became just hugely successful, got into banking, and then they had like 5 sons, and they spread around Europe. So by 1700s, 1800s, they had amassed so much wealth that the Rothschilds banking family had more money, say, than any other banker, all the other bankers in France combined. More than the kings. So they became hugely influential. And they started doing things a bit more through surrogates. They try to keep the spotlight off of themselves. So this is quite known history of the Rothschilds. So related to New World Order. So we're in the 1890s. The Rothschilds gave some funding to a fellow by the name of Cecil Rhodes. He went down into South Africa and developed gold mines and diamond mines. Made huge fortune, huge famous fortune, zillions and millions. And he created the Rhodes Scholarship at Yale University. All sounds very nice, Rhodes Scholarship. But people don't understand, what that really means. So he was part of a secret society. And when he died, he didn't leave all of his wealth to his family. He left it to these secret societies with the agenda of world domination controlled by the international bankers. And it's called the Royal Institute of International Affairs in England. So that was the British name. And the American counterparts, they didn't use the same name. The Americans used the name the Council on Foreign Relations. So that was founded around 1922. But the Royal Institute of International Affairs, that goes back a bit earlier than that, 1890s or around that time. So they had the stated goal, like on paper, the stated goal of having a world government, a global government. That was their stated objective. So this idea goes back a long ways, and like Anthony Sutton was saying in his video about communism, if you read the papers and books, published around 1900, 1905, 1910, a lot of these bankers, like the Gillette family from the Jet shaver, they were expressing this idea for bankers getting together, having a world government. So it wasn't a total secret. So this is sort of the the organizational. So the way the Royal Institute of International Affairs works, and also the same thing with the Council on Foreign Relations in America. It's very important. The Council on Foreign Relations, I think, is the single most powerful organization in the United States because of their influence on other organizations. So what they do is they control organizations from the inside. So they have what I call roundtable discussion groups. And they have their influence on, say, the financial sector, government, manufacturing, media, even Hollywood. They have their group, their influence. They're called roundtables. And they apply their influence on government from the inside, and they take them over from the inside so people aren't even aware that it's happened. So this is how it works. An example today in the United States, the Congress and the Senate and the President are very much influenced and controlled by the Council on Foreign Relations. And it's based in New York City. It's regarded by many and myself as the shadow government in the United States. It's like the real government in the United States. And how many people have ever heard of it? How many people? So they keep the spotlight off themselves. But you go to the website, councilforeignrelations.whatever.com, and the spokesperson on the website is Angelina Jolie, and she's there with her beautiful full lips, like this, and so blah blah blah. So sure, you can walk in the front door, have a look around. So it's not a secret society, but their proceedings are secret. They don't publish their proceedings, their decisions, what they're doing. So any kind of power center you can think of, like 80 to 90% of the power centers in the United States, whether it's a government or Hollywood or big business, the key people in those organizations, like the board of directors, the owners, the CEOs, they're members of the Council on Foreign Relations. So the Council on Foreign Relations tells them basically what to think, how to think about the future. There's even a YouTube video of Hillary Clinton visiting the Council on Foreign Relations, and this was their office, new office in Washington. You see, oh, it's nice to be here. I don't have to go so far to be told how to think about the future. So she's admitting her kind of submission to the Council on Foreign Relations. So this alone is something important to be aware of. So the organizational structure, the influence. So they're making decisions, and they're very good at getting their ideas passed, like through Senate and Congress, getting politicians to do what they want to do. So it's the same with the Royal Institute of International Affairs in England.